This year, during spooky season, I watched 20 scary, spooky movies, so horror films and thrillers, and here they all are in order of when I watched them, and I'll give a grade and talking a little bit about it. And this is similar to what I do on my Instagram. After every month ends, I rank all the films that I watched that month. This one, though, I will not be ranking these films. In September, I watched 8 spooky movies. Starting us off is High Life. I don't know what category to put this under. I'm just gonna say it's kind of a thriller and drama. It's easily the least horror, spookiest movie on this list. I would consider it a thriller. This movie's so fucked up. Robert Pattinson, he's pretty good. Some people saying this is an incredible performance, and not yet on this list. I totally forgot I watched this film until someone brought it up on their Instagram story, and I was like, oh yeah, I did watch that. So to me, it was very forgettable, but the cinematography and colors were absolutely gorgeous. The story was the weakest aspect of it, definitely. I give High Life a B-. Next up is It 2017, and I rewatched this one because I had already seen it before a few times, and I still to this day love it. It's one of my favorite horror movies. I just think Pennywise is such a great villain, and the child performances are some of the best I've ever seen. I love these characters. I love the writing, the direction. I would definitely give it an A+. Next up is Sleepy Hollow from 1999. And this is one of my favorite Tim Burton films. I did a full review on it, so I'm just going to talk very briefly about it. I love this film so much. It is one of my favorite films to watch around this time of year. Johnny Depp is amazing, and the score is beautiful, especially the Tree of Life scene. That score, oh my god, the score in that scene is amazing. I would give Sleepy Hollow an A. Then next I watched probably the biggest disappointment on this list is Halloween 2018, directed by David Gordon Green. I give this one a C+. So many things I really did not enjoy about it. The kills were amazing, I will say, a bunch of them. I love the original. This one just wasn't it for me. I know some people really like this one and some people didn't so much, and I'm on the side that I didn't hate it or anything. I just had to give it a C+, which to me is still a negative grade. C+ is the highest negative grade, and B- is the lowest positive grade for me. But I just didn't overall love it, and it's not that memorable to me. Next up is one that people will be surprised to hear my opinion about because a lot of people did not like this film, and that's It Chapter 2. I saw this film and I thought it was great, not nearly as good as the original. I put up my review and then I watched a few, and people really did not like this, and I understood some of the reasons, but I really did love this film. Bill Skarsgård is very good as Pennywise, not nearly as good as he was in the first one, but that's because this one wasn't as much focused on Pennywise as the first one was. I have a review of this film, please go check that out. I gave it an A-. Next up is The Cabin in the Woods. This one took a bunch of the cliches, like all the characters are the cliche characters and they know it, and they kind of make fun of it for a bit through the dialogue, and then they use totally, like, this takes huge inspiration from a film I'll be talking about when I get to the end of October. This film was very good. I really liked it, and it was kind of weird because there's kind of like the game show thing, but there's also people literally getting murdered, and they're all throwing money, so it's hilarious, but also very spooky at the same time. I give it a B+. Now, the second last film of September I watched was the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it's not really a horror thriller. It's just kind of a weird Halloween-ish movie, musical actually. Tim Curry is excellent, and this is probably the best performance I've seen him give as Frankenfurter. The songs are amazing. The Time Warp is one of my favorite musical songs ever. It's a super weird movie, and it feels like it's from the 70s, and it is, and you can definitely tell that, but I would highly suggest this, and I give it an A-. And finally, in September, is Frankenstein from 1931. I have the steelbook over there with 6 of the Universal Classic horror movie monsters, and this is one of them, and I love this one. It's my favorite of the 2 that I've seen, Dracula and this one. I do prefer this one, but I really do love Dracula too. It has so many iconic scenes, and overall it's a very great movie. I'd give it an A. Now moving into October, is the first one I watched was Get Out. This is a rewatch. I had seen the film a few months ago in March, May, April, one of those months, I'm pretty sure, and I love this film. I think I like it slightly more than Us. I'm not sure Really, I'll just say they're tied now because it's a really hard choice. I love both of Jordan Peele's films, and there's so many just fantastic moments. It's one of the best films of 2017. I give it an A. Next up is a thriller. It's a Stephen King adaptation. It is Secret Window, starring Johnny Depp, and Johnny Depp's amazing in the film. I really love the first act. The second act's it's good, and then the third act, I think it just loses it. There's like iMovie type editing and effects that got really weird, and I just think the ending, it kind of started off really well and then it kind of just slowly descended. I give that one a B. Next up we have A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, and I did rewatch this one and I have a review of it up now, and I'm gonna put on my glasses even though there's gonna be a reflection. Oh, that's so much better. These are new glasses. I love this film so much. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I think it's probably in my top 5. Yeah, definitely. And there's just something about it, Freddy Krueger being one of my favorite slashers of all time. This is probably my favorite horror film from the 80s besides The Shining. So I'd give this one an A. Now the next two, Skip One and Another One, are all Stephen King adaptations, and this one is one I had not seen before, but I had only heard of it from a Chris Stuckman review, and that is 1408. I think it's kind of underrated just because I never heard of it, and I watched it, and it was a solid film. John Cusack was very good in it, and Samuel L. Jackson was good in the scenes he was in. I wish he was in it more, though. It's such a weird movie, and I really did like it. I'd give it a B. Now next up is my third favorite thriller of all time, and that is Misery. Stephen King's book, Misery, is my favorite book I've ever read, and I just think it is one of the best books ever written, and this film is one of my favorite thrillers. I think it's one of the best thrillers. It's a film that more people really do need to talk about, and Kathy Bates gives one of the best performances in a thriller ever, and one of the best female performances I've ever seen. I'd give this one an A+. Now we move on to The Conjuring 2, and I watched the first Conjuring back earlier in the first half of this year, I'm pretty sure, and I really do love this film. I give it the same grade as this one, which is an A-, but I did prefer The Conjuring 2 more. I just felt like it added more on, and Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, I think that's how you say her name, are excellent, and the child performance in this is fantastic. It's one of the best I've seen in a horror film. And the scares, although I feel there's a bit too many jump scares in the first act, they're all very well done, which I'm glad about because I hate jump scares that are shitty. Now we move on to, I think, our last Stephen King adaptation, and that is Pet Sematary from 1989. Pet Sematary was solid. I really did like this one. I have a review of it. It's one of the spooky season reviews I put out for, and I'm pretty sure all of them are on this list that I've talked about. And this one has some really emotional moments. I related to it because I am a cat owner, and it's just not in my room right now. This one it's solid. It's not one of Stephen King's best, but it's also not one of his worst adaptations. I'd give it a B. Now we move on to my third favorite horror film of all time, and that is Psycho from 1960. It's A+, definitely. It's one of the best films ever made. Alfred Hitchcock is just the master of suspense, and Norman Bates is one of my favorite characters in any film ever. Anthony Perkins is amazing. The shower scene's iconic, the ending. So many scenes are iconic, and they're so creepy. Now we move on to a film I have not yet talked about on this channel, but I am waiting to do a video on, and that is The Lighthouse. I loved The Lighthouse. It is one of my favorite, if not my favorite film of the year. I'm pretty sure it is my favorite film of the year. It's just two characters, Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe, and they're lighthouse keepers. But it's the creepy stuff that they go through, and they just descend into insanity. That is fantastic. I just want to do a video kind of like this where I sit down and just rant about how fucking good this movie is. It is incredible. It looks very good even though it's only in black and white. And the aspect ratios in the little box, and I feel like that helped it to feel like you're kind of trapped with them. I won't reveal the grade in this just because I do want to do a video on this one, but if you're not seen it, please go watch this. Now coming into our third last one of this entire list is The Evil Dead from 1981, I'm pretty sure, directed by Sam Raimi. This one is one that The Cabin in the Woods took huge inspiration from, and I love so much about this film. It's such a weird film, but the practical effects are some of the best I've ever seen. I give The Evil Dead an A-. And now coming into one of the best films, and easily the funniest one on this list, is Shaun of the Dead, directed by Edgar Wright, and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost give two of the funniest performances I've ever seen. Especially Simon Pegg, he is phenomenal in this, but the zombies also look amazing. The practical effects and makeup are amazing. The jokes, this is one of my favorite comedies I've ever seen. I'd definitely give this one an A+. And finally, we've reached our last film. I watched this one on Halloween night. Can you guess what it is? That's right. Halloween from 1978, one of the best horror films ever made. This was a rewatch because I had seen it last year, and I love almost everything about this. The only thing I don't like is Nancy's really fucking annoying friend. Michael Myers is one of the best horror characters ever. Him and Freddy Krueger battle for my favorite slasher. And this is, again, probably top 5, top 7 of my favorite horror films of all time. And it's honestly so good. Jamie Lee Curtis is fantastic, and John Carpenter's score is my favorite horror score ever. I'd give Halloween an A. Thank you all for watching this probably longer video than normal. I hope you had fun listening to all the 20 films I watched this spooky season. Take these off so you don't get the reflection, which will piss me off during editing. But thank you all for watching. Tell me what your best and worst films. And I just realized I didn't talk about In the Tall Grass. I give that one a C-, and I did not like that one at all. It's the worst one that would be on this list. Anyway, I will see you guys next time. Over and out.